I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakah Quadash, double honors unto our apostle elders, which ruled great millstone well, and which taught us the truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure unto the end. Shalom wa abba. So this is Isaiah 25, verse 1. The subtitle says, Song of Praise for Yahweh's Favor. O Yahweh, thou art my power. I will exalt thee. I will praise thy name. And who's exalting the Lord? Malachi 1 verse 5. And your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, Yahweh will be magnified from the border of Israel. Talking about the Israelites. All right, you see the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians doing these videos, claiming to be the Israelites, glorifying Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. It says, For thou hast done wonderful things. Thy counsels of old are faithfulness and truth, which you got a lot of Israelites that reject it, which the Lord says He's going to reject them. Proverbs 1 verse 24, Because I have called through the mouth of the prophet, and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded, but ye have set at naught all my counsel, and with none of my reproof. Because what is his counsel? Revelation 3 verse 18, I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, talking about his prophets, that thou mayest be rich. So take the counsel that the prophets are giving through his word, and white remnant, that thou mayest be clothed, so that you be found innocent in the blood of Yahushua, and that the shame of thy nakedness, you have no covering, do not appear. Because you want to be covered when Yahushua returns, because if not, you're going to be destroyed. And anoint thine eyes with thy salve, that thou mayest see. See? So let's go back to Isaiah 25, verse 2. For thou hast made of a city an heap, of a defended city a ruin, a palace of strangers to be no city. It shall never be built. Which that's the prophecy of Edom, Isaiah 14:21. It says, Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers. And Edom is the so-called white race, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, and remnant, and son, and nephew, saith Yahweh. Which the Edomites eventually going to be made extinct. Verse 3, Therefore shall the strong people glorify thee, which were stronger than the Edomites, and we glorify Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. The city of the terrible nations shall fear thee. It says in Isaiah 59:19, it says, So shall they fear the name of Yahweh from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun, when the enemy shall come in like a flood, and the spirit of Yahweh shall lift up a standard against him. And the Redeemer shall come to Zion, the Israelites that are prophesying, and unto them that turn from transgression in Jacob, saith Yahweh, them that take heed to the prophets in Jacob. Isaiah 25, verse 4, For thou hast been a strength to the poor, a strength to the needy in his distress, a refuge from the storm, a shadow from the heat, when the blast of the terrible ones is as a storm against the wall. So he's going to save us from the nuclear destruction of America. Thou shalt bring down the noise of strangers as the heat in a dry place, even the heat with the shadow of a cloud, which those chariots shoot fire down from them. The branch of the terrible ones shall be brought low, which are the men of the Edomites, because when the Lord sent them against us, they were to be terrible towards us because of our sin. It says, 40. There it is. I'll start at 47. Deuteronomy 28:47. Because thou servest not Yahweh thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Talking about that so-called Caucasian, right? The Lord pretty much sent this man as a weapon against us because we sinned. Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, which they use the eagle to represent themselves. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, because they were speaking Latin, we were speaking Hebrew. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young, which they're terrible. Let's go ahead and go back to Isaiah 25 and verse 6. It says, And in this mountain shall Yahweh of hosts make unto all people a feast of fat things, a feast of wines on the lees, of fat things full of marrow, of wines on the lees well refined. And he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all the, it says, and he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, which what is that covering cast? The false identity, like being white. That's a false identity. That's a covering cast, or how they call us black or brown. Negro or Latino. That's a covering cast. They're hiding us. It says, and the veil that is spread over all nations, the gross darkness where everybody don't know who they are. But that's why the prophets are here. We're not only telling the Israelites who they are, but the other nations who they are and what is their future. It says he will swallow up death in victory, and the Lord Yahweh, through his son Yahushua, will wipe away tears from off all faces of the Israelites, and the rebuke of his people, the Israelites, shall he take away from off all the earth, for Yahweh has spoken it. So Yahweh is going to do it. It says in Revelation 21, verse 1, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, which we're going to rule, and the heathen are going to be our slaves. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. There'll be no more Babylon the Great, a.k.a. America. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And the reason we went up into the chariot is because of that nuclear destruction of America. And then when we come down, we're going to rule the earth. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai is with men. And which men? The Israelite men. And he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai himself shall be with them and be their power. And Yahweh shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away, which we're even going to get new bodies when Yahushua saves us. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful, which is speaking about Yahushua when he returns. It says in Revelation 19:11, And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him, Yahushua, was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. And there's an actual commandment that he's to wage war with the Edomite. All right, and so Yahushua is going to come back and destroy the Edomite. Isaiah 63. In his kingdom, but the remnant that survived by going into the bunkers all over the world, right? They have these bunkers for these kings and rich men and captains, and they're going to be preserved so that they could go right into slavery for the Israelite. It says in Isaiah 63:1, Who is this that cometh from Edom, which is Yahushai, with dyed garments from Basra, this that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength, I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, which is America, and of the people there was none with me. I will tread them in my anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain my remnant, which is not literal, right? Because he's not going to get bloody. He's actually just going to hit him with that fire that comes out of that chariot. It says right here in verse 13, Revelation 19:13, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yahweh, which is speaking of Yahushua. And the armies which were in heaven with his Father, that's why they call him the Lord of hosts, Yahweh of hosts. He's going to send those armies of heaven with his son Yahushua. That's why Yahushua is coming with the glory of his Father. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, and out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that laser beam, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. He's going to enslave them and give them to the Israelites. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty Yahweh. But America nothing will remain. And he hath on his vesture and on his dye a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, which is Yahushua. All right, and he's going to take away all the authority from these heathen kings and give it to his sons, all right, the ones that are, as it said in Isaiah 59:20, and the Redeemer shall come to Zion, and unto them that turn from transgression in Jacob, saith Yahweh, which he's going to gather them and put them back in their land, in the Holy Land. Isaiah 14:1, and Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, which that's what Yahushua is going to do. And the strangers, Israelites, shall be joined with him, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And it says in verse 2, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressor. And that's the future. For 1,000 years, we're gonna have the heathen as slaves. We're gonna rule over them very harsh, very harsh. And the ruling that we have over them, there's not gonna be no mercy shown for 1,000 years to these people. But then after the 1,000 years, the Edomites are gonna be made extinct, and the other nations are gonna serve tribute to us forever. But it says that the people rejoice when the righteous rule, because they'll still have their land, they'll be able to have their families, but everything that's the cream of their crop will be ours. And it says the Edomites, they'll be extinct. So there will be a time where there's not even an Edomite. There's a show, so I'll just read it out. But in this movie, Tales from the Hood 3, there's a part where you have an Edomite in a bunker thinking he's empowered, but really he's enslaved in a zoo, and it shows you the people looking at him. It says, in the Tales from the Hood 3, the segment, the bunker, that's the part. It's in the middle of the movie. The bunker features a character, Denton Wilbury, who is portrayed as a racist hate-monger. Denton lives in a bunker and broadcasts racist messages, eventually being killed in a way that is tied to the film's futuristic storyline, which he's in a zoo. He's in a zoo for that Edomite. And who's looking at him? Jake, so-called Negroes and Latinos. It says, the segment explores the consequences of such hatred and presents a bleak picture of a person consumed by prejudice. Let me see the bunker. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of it. Yeah, right here. This is the bunker. This is his, you know how in the zoo you have a habitat for the animal? This is the habitat of this beast, this Edomite. And he thinks he's still free, but he's in captivity in that bunker. And in that bunker, there's pretty much a force field around it, and he can't even shoot. But as you can see, he's being watched by these people, and these people are actually Jake when you see it. These are so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians looking at him. All right? Check it out. I recommend it. Shalom to the elect. Wa abababal.